a comprehensive look at trends, fund profiles, and more in Exploring ETFs.
Hi everyone, welcome to Exploring ETFs. I'm Neena Mishra, and today we are talking about ETFs that provide access to SpaceX, which is the hottest and most highly valued private company. And SpaceX is expected to go public this year. According to Bloomberg, the company is planning to raise more than $30 billion, and this could be the largest public listing ever. And this will target a valuation of about $1.5 trillion. So, this would be one of the biggest public companies also when it starts trading. Uh, SpaceX was founded by Elon Musk in May 2002, in fact, before he became involved with Tesla. And the company has a de facto monopoly on rocket launches, and its satellite internet division, which is called Starlink, that is reportedly a cash cow. And according to Musk, SpaceX has been cash flow positive for many years, unlike many of the newer hot private companies. And SpaceX, as I mentioned, it was founded long back, but it chose to remain private for so many years because institutional investors continued to pour money. But now it is choosing to go public, and reportedly, this is due to Musk's ambition to build data centers in space based data centers. And SpaceX is not the only company which is in this race pursuing solar powered orbital data centers. Bezos, Amazon founder Jeff Bezos, Blue Origin is also in this race, and Google is also reportedly working on a space data center project, which is called Project Suncatcher. Now, building these data centers in space will require hundreds of billions of dollars, if not trillions. And there are many challenges because those chips, companies will need to keep those chips cool, protect them from radiations in space, and then transmit data back to Earth with minimum latency. Now, because this combines two of the hottest themes, AI and space, there's a lot of investor interest in space. And since this is a private company, it does not trade on a stock exchange yet. So, investing is not easy unless you are a large private equity investor or a venture capitalist or an employee. But for retail investors, there are now some ETFs and also mutual funds available that can provide access to SpaceX. So let's take a look at those ETFs and mutual funds. So let's talk about Ron Barron ETFs and mutual funds. So Ron Barron is a billionaire. He has been investing in Musk companies for a long time. He's a strong supporter. You can see him on CNBC, often talking about his Musk related investments. And he has been purchasing SpaceX shares annually since 2017. That is according to his annual letter to shareholders for his mutual funds and other accounts. He has been purchasing those shares. His ETF, Ron B, this launched just last month. This is a little over a month old, and this has SpaceX exposure of about 16%, barely a month old, and already has 102 million in assets. It is expensive, charges 1%. Let's take a look at this ETF. So this is Barron First Principle ETF Ron B. Interesting ticker. And if you use the link, you can go to the quote page for this ETF. And let's take a look at holdings. So Tesla is at about 13%, and then SpaceX two share classes, so about 16% exposure to SpaceX, and then it also has XAI. So overall, you have to be a big believer in Elon Musk if you want to invest in this ETF because of its outsized exposure to Tesla, SpaceX, and XAI. Now, as I mentioned earlier, his mutual funds have been investing in SpaceX for a long time, and Barron Partners Fund BPTRX. This currently has about 29% exposure to SpaceX, and this is as of December 2025 because mutual funds are not required to update their holdings daily like ETFs. So, this is something investors should remember. And there's another mutual fund, Barron Focused Growth Fund, ticker symbol BFGFX. This also has significant exposure to SpaceX, about 19% as of December 31st. Now, both these mutual funds have been outperforming their respective benchmarks, and these are among the best performing mutual funds mainly because of their exposure to SpaceX and Tesla for a long time. So, you can take a look at their performance and decide if you want to invest in these mutual funds or ETFs or ETF. Now, one thing I should mention that the SEC places a 15% limit on open-ended funds which hold illiquid investments. And these open-ended funds include both ETFs and mutual funds. And a security is defined as illiquid if it cannot be sold within 7 days without significantly impacting its market value. So historically, Barron had classified SpaceX as an illiquid security in its mutual fund, and they adhered to that 15% limit. But now they have classified SpaceX as less liquid security, and their reasoning is that because SpaceX has very active secondary market, so this is not an illiquid security, and this was pointed out by Bloomberg first. Now, it remains to be seen whether it is liquid or illiquid, but investors should remember that private securities are not as liquid and transparent. Their valuation is not as transparent as those of public securities. Now, another ETF which invests in SpaceX is XOVR, public private public crossover ETF. This actually changed its strategy in August of 2024. Then last year, it acquired SpaceX through a special purpose vehicle, SPV. Current exposure through SPV is about 10%, and this ETF has been gathering assets because of its exposure to SpaceX. It has kind of ballooned 4 times. Its assets have been going up. It's been gathering assets like crazy. It has an expense ratio of 75 basis points. The problem is we do not know about the fee charged by that SPV or SPVs that the ETF uses, and the Wall Street Journal had pointed out that these SPVs could charge fee as high as 25% of any gains. And there's a lot of there's a lack of clarity regarding valuation also. We do not know how the ETF will determine a fair value for its SpaceX position, which is required by the SEC. But let's take a look at this ETF. Again, you can use the code page on Zacks.com to go to XOVR webpage. And as I mentioned, the SpaceX position is about 10%, and then NVIDIA, Meta, Arista, Palantir. These are among other top holdings in this ETF. The next fund that I'm highlighting is not an ETF, but it is often confused, mistook for an ETF. I often get questions about this closed end fund DXYZ. So I wanted to quickly talk about this ETF. This is a closed end fund that intends to invest in a portfolio of about top 100 venture backed private companies. And if you look at the portfolio, it has not been updated since September 30th. At that time, SpaceX was about 23% of its portfolio. Now, the performance has been extremely volatile. It often trades at a massive premium to its NAV. Investors should remember that closed-end funds like DXYZ, it's not an ETF or a mutual fund, their market price can deviate significantly from their NAVs, and they trade basically on supply and demand. So this is a cautionary tale for investors, as you will see from the performance, comparative performance, which I have on this slide. So, in fact, the XOVR ETF also, which has about 10% SpaceX currently, that also underperformed the S&P 500 index over the past 1 year. S&P 500 index was up about 15%. XOVR is up about 1 or 2%, and DXYZ is a cautionary tale. It was down 55% over the past year. Barron mutual funds have done very well. You can look at their performance, but I'm not adding RONB, the ETF's performance here, because this ETF is just about a month old. Thanks for watching. Make sure to check out zax.com/promo for an interesting offer. Make sure to subscribe to our YouTube video channel so that you do not miss anything. And I'll see you next week.